The base is dropped on another edition of Soccer Down Here. It's July 21st. It's a Tuesday. It's a match day. Atlanta and Columbus tonight. Kickoff just after 8 o'clock. All your coverage will be on 92.9 The Game. We'll get into all of the broadcast plans later. They are somewhat substantial. We've got lots of different things coming with Atlanta United social media channels as well, including some interviews from the bubble. So we'll be getting ready for everything Atlanta-Columbus today. Doug Robertson will join us at 10:30 to help us get ready for that. We've got New England and Toronto this morning, expecting that everybody will have that up on a second screen. We'll be talking about it as it goes for sure. Interesting match. Both teams are resting a few players. It's one of these morning matches that can get kind of weird in different ways, and we'll see how everything is affecting it this morning. We've also got some big news to start with out of Los Angeles, John. This started bubbling up late in the day yesterday, and the interesting way that all these things get timed out, and you have this article here, and you have this article here, and you have this article over here, all to announce that the NWSL is moving into L.A. with a lot of heavy hitters behind it.
Yeah, the day before the semifinals, it is announced by the NWSL that you have a lot of 99ers that are involved. Mia Hamm on her account. Tisha Venturini-Hoke is there. Julie Foudy is involved. Natalie Portman is involved. Alexis Ohanian, the Mr. Reddit himself, is involved. So a lot of heavy hitters for NWSL LA for the announcement that they're coming in 2022. Looking forward to seeing what the announcement is. And Lisa Baird came out yesterday, the commissioner of the NWSL, and she's ready and raring to go, but the folks in Los Angeles, they want to take their time. They don't want to push it to come in 2021. They want to take advantage of this long runway that they have and really do it right.
So you got cash involved in this, a lot of it. Alexis Ohanian, along with some of the celebrities involved. Money won't be a problem. You've got soccer people involved, U.S. women's national team legends involved in this, and not just players who were great players. You've got people who've been involved in clubs and people who've been involved in organizing clubs. So this is about as big of an announcement as the NWSL has ever had. It's a game changer for the league. And we've talked about this during the pandemic, what leagues, what organizations are going to do to prepare themselves for what's next. I think the NWSL has done a better job than any other league in the world to grow from where they were to where they will be on the other side of this. Any league, any organization, I think the NWSL is the best worldwide in handling this and getting whatever you can out of it.
I've maintained throughout this process that if you're looking for growth industries, if you're someone who is an investor, a businessman looking for that growth industry, I've always maintained that MLS is a part of that, and I will truly maintain that the NWSL is a part of that. And we're seeing that in the Los Angeles idea, the Angel City idea coming out in 2022, that seeing what it can be, talking about the growth of the sport, specifically on the women's side. There are a lot of markets, I think, that really could have a tremendous fan base and a lot of support for a team were it to be a part of the NWSL discussion. So I will sit here and wave my flag as wildly as possible in front of my face and sit here and say, if you're a businessman and you're looking for growth of a sport, growth of a business, and growth of a game, that soccer should be a part of your thought pattern, and having the NWSL as that thought pattern, as we're seeing here with the announcement this morning, I think it's part and parcel as to where it should be.
So this is also similar to LAFC in that it is a large group of people who've come together to launch this team. 32 members of the initial ownership group. You mentioned, U.S. women's national team players like Julie Foudy, Mia Hamm, Lauren Cheney-Holiday, Abby Wambach. You have actors Jennifer Garner, Eva Longoria, America Ferrera, author Glennon Doyle, Serena Williams is involved. I mean, you've got so many different people into it. Right now, the name that is floating around is revolving around Angel City, which is an interesting one. Some of the branding is out there. A lot of these different folks have tweeted a teaser, and it's a good look. I mean, I like where they're at right now with it. We'll see if Angel City FC or Angel City United or Angel City whatever becomes the name. But you get another West Coast team. You get another team coming in alongside Louisville. Now, Louisville is going to launch next year. The Los Angeles team will come in the following year. But you're creating this platform with new teams coming in, with new sponsors coming on board, with new attention getters coming into the league. I mean, you get some of these people involved in this league, you're going to get more attention than you've gotten in the past. That raises the standard, it raises the expectation, but it also raises the appeal for people. And I don't think it's unfair to say it, for somebody like Arthur Blank. Because Arthur Blank told us on the pregame show of the first home game this season, a long time ago, back in March, feels like forever ago, but Arthur Blank, unprompted, talked to Mike Conti and I about NWSL and how they're looking at it. So there had to be questions once a pandemic hits and everything changes, but the NWSL is coming out of this looking really good, and I think it's going to make it easier for your Arthur Blanks, your other owners in MLS, your other owners in the USL Championship who are exploring adding professional women's soccer. It's going to be a lot easier to say yes and cut that check when you start to get these kinds of announcements.
Well, and at the same time, as you were mentioning the names of the ownership group for Angel City, the one commonality that kept popping out to me was moms. Jennifer Garner, a mother. You've got Serena Williams, who's a mother, and Alexis Ohanian gifted ownership shares to both Serena and to his 2-year-old daughter Olympia. And Alexis had said that, okay, so I've got 16 years to get Olympia to where she needs to be so she can get paid as much as she deserves and can be a part of the the national team picture as well. But you have moms who are a part of this ownership group as well. And I think that speaks to the faith that they have in the family dynamic, A, and then the notion that they are fully behind this and what it means to the women's game. There was, Ohanian was told, hey, dude, he was vacationing in Europe. And one of his buddies says, look, you've got to go to the Women's World Cup because it's an amazing thing. And Ohanian said he had one of the best sporting experiences of his life. The enthusiasm, talent, energy, it was phenomenal. And then he was asked about the energy that he felt at the game that he went to in France and how it wasn't translating to the domestic league back home. Here's the quote from the article in The Athletic. Here's the thing I just can't believe. How are more people not aware of this league? And how is this not an even bigger deal back in the U.S.? I started doing the homework and then started rage tweeting because I saw the numbers. And that's what I think spurred a lot of NWSL fans to say, hey, shut up, put your money where your mouth is. And I'm grateful that they did that. So you have families who are engaged. You have moms who are now engaged in this as a part of this ownership group. And I think it just speaks really well as to how they see the league as well going forward.
Yeah, it's key. And one of the other elements that jumped out to me with this, one question is where they're going to play. Are they going to play at Dignity Health, home of the Galaxy? Are they going to play at the former Bank of California Stadium where LAFC plays? Are going to do something completely different? We'll have to wait and see on that. But they're also, this group, in addition to getting the rights to an NWSL team, they announced a community partnership with the LA84 Foundation. Now, the LA84 Foundation, as you can probably tell, was created out of the 1984 Olympics. It's one of the leaders in using sport for social change, for youth development. I mean, they set the standard for pretty much every other organization that's come after it. They've done amazing work, and they're going to be able to do a lot of things together to not just have a professional women's team, but to have all of these other elements. And as they said in their article at Sportico, they're focused on sport as a vehicle for social justice and gender equity as much as it's concerned with that on-field product. And Natalie Portman is heavily involved in this side of it as well. You've got people who are coming to the table from all the different aspects of running a team. And that's what's so hard at times when you launch something like this, because you have to have the product on the field be good. You know, that's a key part of it. And sometimes clubs don't have the bandwidth to get everything else right straight out of the gates. This group's got a lot of bandwidth, and you've got a lot of people who can do different things and bring different things to the table. This has the potential to be a really successful launch on day one. Honestly, next year, even before they start playing games, they can still start to have an impact in their community and get the ball rolling. We saw that here in Atlanta, where Atlanta United was announced. Even before they had a name, they were involved in the community. That helped grow what Atlanta United has turned into. It helped grow Atlanta as a soccer city. Los Angeles is a soccer city, but on the women's side, you haven't had a pro team since the old LA Soul. They've got some work to do. Doing the work in the community over the next year will be a way to bridge that gap.
Yeah, the one-on-one that was done with Portman, once again, from our friends at The Athletic, Meg Linehan brought it out about an hour ago. And when she asked Natalie Portman specifically about her approach, she says, whatever it is, whatever I do, I'm all in. Committed to developing the organization in a way that delivers our promise to ignite higher expectations on and off the field. We all have our different strengths, discussing the ownership group on the whole. And I'll lean in where I can provide the most value, but I'm all in. To have that from the absolute beginning of this project, I'm looking forward to seeing what their next steps are and looking forward to seeing how it presents itself in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this because I think this is going to help the league take the next step because it's not strictly about LA. This is a game changer for the league as a whole. My guess is you have more individuals who were interested in the NWSL, but on the heels of this announcement, want more information, want specifics, want to figure out what those next steps are. I think this is going to open the door to more. And as we've talked about with the league, 9 teams isn't enough. You got 10 coming in with Louisville next year. You need more than 10. You need to get into that 16 to 18 range to start to be taken, I think, a little more seriously on a worldwide stage. You've got to have that size of a league to attract more players. You've got to have these kinds of heavy hitters to attract players and keep players. It's key. It's essential for the league, and I think they're putting themselves in the right position to not just survive right now, but to grow. And they might be one of the only sports organizations to do that during the pandemic. It's an incredible testament to Lisa Baird and what she's done from coming in and walking into a pandemic and having to fill out loan applications to keep things afloat to now coming out the other side of the NWSL Challenge Cup, which, a couple days before it starts, you have Orlando Pride who can't play, and you have to drop them out. Things don't look good. The quality on the field has been good. The entertainment has been good. You've had some drama in it in these knockout rounds. You've had a bunch of upsets, which is fine. I don't think it's hurt the product at all. The NWSL is in a good place. This is only going to raise that profile even more.
Once again, let me give you a sentence from the Portman interview with Meg Linehan. Natalie Portman says, "The league has proved it has legs. Period. End of sentence." I don't think I could put that any better. What we've seen from the league is growth. We've seen excitement. I know a lot of folks were sitting there and discussing that 3 of the 4 matches in the previous round went to penalties. I view that as exciting soccer that has a resolution. You had the upset with North Carolina and the 8th seed Portland. So for me, this has been a successful tournament with all of the thought going in of, why are you doing this? This won't be successful. I beg to differ where this is concerned. For me, it's been a tremendous tournament and a great statement for the NWSL. I know that there are, in addition to the LA news today, they're trying to determine whether or not there's going to be any more activity in the NWSL in 2020. So that news probably comes out either later today or tomorrow, next couple of days, what have you.
That's changed a little bit because initially it was, no, that's not happening. This is going to be it. This is all we're going to be able to do. Maybe they've come out of this tournament even better than they thought they would, and they're going to be able to fund it. That's assuming no fans in the stands or a limited number of fans in the stands. But to go from this is going to be the season to, well, maybe not. Maybe we will be able to do something in the fall. That's another impressive turn. We'll see if that happens. Yeah.
So looking forward to that news coming out of Utah and the NWSL with their discussions. But once again, all I'm going to reference is the quote again, the sentence. The league has proved it has legs. This is one of the growth industries that I will continue to harp on, and I will continue to take my horn and toot it as best I can when it comes to the NWSL with what we've seen from them in this tournament.
Bernd Dursberger said the NWSL level of play has been great, much better than many other leagues around the world. And Rope said the ladies knocked off the rust quickly and got to business. CBS All Access has run a tight ship. Just having the content.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to get to with the next thing. There's been an article out about disappointing ratings on the MLS side. I think they've been about average, and there was some hope that they would be larger than that because there aren't other sports going on. There hasn't been really much of the other content. You know, one of the hopes, especially for these 9 a.m. games, was to have some lead-in content and some content on the backside of it. Really hasn't happened, and that's an issue with some of the TV partners. You know, you're not getting, like on 2-Day NA, where they have their soccer show, their Sports Center, which is mostly focused on soccer, from 7 to 8 in the evening, leading up to the 8 o'clock kick. All about the tournament, all about everything going on. They talk about other soccer around the world, but they're talking about everything coming into it. This morning, I mean, it was almost like, oh, we got to go to soccer, sorry. We're arguing about who the NBA MVP is, and it was a inane argument about, well, what's valuable, and is it best, and is it dominant, and it should be this person, it should be this person. That's fine. That's what the show is. But could you throw a segment about the game you're about to broadcast? So maybe some of the people who are watching Get Up in the morning would say, hey, I want to see New England and Toronto. I'm a fan of the Patriots. It's Robert Kraft's team. I'll watch this. There's nothing else on.
Michael Bradley. I mean, come on.
Anything. Any hook. Any hook. I mean, there's not even an attempt to find a hook. That's the problem. There's just no attempt to even find it. It's just... And what frustrates me is when it's not even you're ignoring it. It's where it's like, all right, we got to stop the argument because we got to get to the soccer game. It's dismissing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the crossover has not happened. I can tell you from experience. I can tell you from numbers. I can tell you from, I mean, you look at the public ratings. 92.9 a game, which has that other content around it. Seen some complaints. They don't have a soccer show. Well, they don't have a football show either. And football does pretty good for the station. They talk about it in the context of all their shows. The station's ratings as a whole are up from before when Atlanta United launched. The Falcons haven't been the greatest in that period of time, so I don't think they're driving it. The Hawks have been down for a large part of that, so they're not driving it. You can do the math. And the game broadcasts for Atlanta United games on radio have been very good. That's why we get to keep doing them. That's why we get things like tonight, where Dukes and Bell ends at 7 o'clock. Our pregame would normally start at 7:30, giving us an extra half-hour pregame. They know that we can deliver numbers because people want to hear soccer talk. They'd rather do that than throw a replay on or have Dukes and Bell extend and do an extra 30 minutes, which is pretty tough after doing 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
They're confident in soccer delivering those ratings. The numbers have backed it up. If you don't have that other content around it, if you just put the soccer on in a silo, and this is whether you're broadcasting a game, this is whether you have a station and you say, all right, we're going to do a soccer show, we're going to commit to soccer, and we're going to throw it on, at 7 in the morning on Saturdays. Then you're isolating it.
Yeah. Soccer
will grow, and MLS ratings will grow if ESPN, if Fox, which doesn't really have a lot of auxiliary programming to work this around, if local broadcasters who have shows around the soccer broadcasting, the local radio partners, if they talk about it outside of just the game, you can't just talk about it in the game because then nobody is coming to it new. Mm-hmm. And we have to understand this in the soccer world now. The soccer community in this country is large, and NWSL is a prime example. The women's soccer community will go find it. They'll go look for it. They'll go find it. They'll go subscribe. They're in. Don't have to worry a whole lot about them. That baseline for where MLS ratings are right now, They're going to stay. They're not going to go anywhere. They're soccer fans. They're fans of the league. They're not going anywhere. You need to grow it. You need to bring new people in under the tent. You need to bring new people to the party. You can't do that by not advertising what you're doing. And throwing commercials on doesn't count. It's giving it credibility by having an interview on Get Up with Michael Bradley, with Greg Vanny, with Josie Altidore. It's giving that credibility. It's giving credibility to have Taylor Twellman yelling back and forth with Stephen A. Smith. It's giving credibility to do those things. That hasn't happened. So the ratings haven't grown. Period. It's that easy. And it's going to be taken as a shot at MLS. Mm-hmm. It's not a shot at MLS. It's the way it's being presented. There's nothing else around it. The digital stuff is great. That's going to appeal to the people who are already hooked. You've got to do the other programming, or it just doesn't happen. It just stays where it is.
I was writing down a couple of thoughts in my head as you were going. Just so folks know, from both Austin Carpet Sports Business Journal and from Richard Deitch, 4 of the 14 games to date have aired at 9 a.m. None of those games have topped 175,000 viewers.
And that's disappointing because I hoped they would be better too. It hasn't worked. You haven't really allowed it to work either.
Yeah. Of the 9 MLS games that have started in primetime window, those telecasts have averaged 296,000 viewers. So, for me, and this is somewhat of a rhetorical question, when a network signs a TV contract with a league, what do they constantly refer to this relationship as?
A partnership?
Broadcast partners. Exactly right. Haven't seen that. You're broadcasting games. You are a conduit. You are not a partner. There has been zero, less or close to zero, because we have seen early in the tournament there was one appearance, I think, by one of the talent on SportsCenter or something like that. You're not getting the interaction to bring in the casual fan under this tent. And this is disappointing that a broadcast partner would not want to do these kinds of things to bring in the casual viewer under the tent. Like you said, to have Taylor Twellman, to have Ollie Moreno arguing with Stephen A. and Max about what we saw earlier in the morning, to have John or Stu or Alexi go on with Skip and Shannon to discuss what's going on, to counter-program what you're seeing with the network that's not doing a live game at 9 a.m. These kinds of things have been sorely missing in this tournament in the group stage. And it's disappointing that for whatever reason, you don't want to sit there and see the new kid at the lunch table for the mornings and sit there and let's go ahead and surround all of the tables together as a group and sit there and have breakfast with the kid. You're not doing that, and you're really not giving the credence to the investment that Major League Soccer and the broadcast networks have done to get us to this point, but you're not bringing in the casual fan. You're not doing any advanced storytelling. You're not doing any advanced features. I mean, everything that the Philadelphia Union have done, whether it's with their practice jerseys or completely stunning us all with their game jerseys, first time out of the blocks, that was a great moment for television, but I can't think of any real follow-up in a news sense that was done to help continue to advance the story and tell the story. Storytelling is lacking. Interaction is lacking, and it's just disappointing that when you make all of this investment to get all of these games on the air, to have a World Cup group stage event, you're not treating it like a World Cup group stage. You're treating it like ancillary programming that is still off to the side, and for some reason you don't want to have anything to do with it.
It's really frustrating. Ropes with a question. Is it the shows or personalities or the network that's holding it back? And I don't know. I don't know what the decision-making process is. I don't know if the other shows don't want to have soccer content on. I don't know if the network is pushing for them to. I don't know what has caused that. I don't know what is the issue with that. It's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating because if you don't have that commitment to the product, if you don't have that, I think, just ability to talk about it outside of the game broadcast. Because if you're not getting people to the game broadcast, you have to get them there somehow. Mm-hmm. And if you're not putting forth an effort to get them there, then I don't know how you expect them to show up. That's the problem is, on top of that, you paid money to do this. You should want to grow it. I think it helps you in the long run if you're paying attention to just the sports landscape. The game is growing. There are more people who are willing to check it out. You can create new fans, but you have to put forth the effort to do that. And that's where I've said it plenty of times, and I feel like it's really important to keep saying, that's where a lot of the personalities at 92.9 have been really important. And Carl Dukes talked about it in an interview about his career, because the interviewer was shocked that the show had so much soccer content. And I've seen this pop up multiple times over the years. This is not just like one article. There was an article about how shows were filling sports talk during the pandemic, and there was shock that they talked so much about soccer on Dukes and Bell. And Carl has talked about it with me. He's talked about it, with the station. He's talked about it in interviews. It's helped the ratings, like flat out. I mean, you're going to talk about what helps your ratings, and soccer's helped their ratings. But it's also helped the station. And Carl's not a longtime soccer guy. Mike's a fan. But those guys are giving this the opportunity, and they're coming at it from their personality. They're being true to themselves. They're not trying to be, Ray Hudson. They're not trying to be Seamus Mallon. They're being themselves and talking about soccer, and it's bringing new fans to the game. I can't tell you how many people send us a message in any format after a broadcast. And that 9 a.m. game for us was actually really interesting because we had a lot of new people listening. A lot of new people at least took the time to send us a message to say they were listening. And our streaming numbers were better than usual. So you can make things out of it if you put forth the effort, but you have to put the effort in on all of the programming, not just on the broadcast. Because if you're not bringing people to the broadcast, then you're stuck.
Carl, and this is, once again, when we all went to Nashville for the Atlanta United match, Carl was a part of the tailgating. Carl made the trip.
Oh, yeah.
Mike made the trip.
Yeah.
They wanted to see what was going on. And I thought it was cool because Mike being a fan and everything, that any excuse for Mike Bell to have a roadie, he'll take a roadie.
Oh, of course.
And for Carl also to be as all in as he is, and to see him be with the tailgaters and be with the supporters groups and hang out this day, I thought it was just really cool to see that kind of engagement, interaction, interest level when it comes to what's going on, for somebody to make a 4-hour trip and sit there and be a part of something that was a historic event for the city of Nashville, but at the same time be a part of something because of what Atlanta United means to their footprint as well. Cuppers, we were discussing the four-letter. Mm-hmm. Cuppers says the most memorable thing I have seen was PTI asking who you got for a game that was on that night, and Wilbon saying he would be watching Law and Order.
I heard that, and I was furious because that's happened on that show, which is a very influential show. It's happened on SportsCenter coming out of a game broadcast for years. There's no need for that. It does nothing. It does nothing at all to benefit anybody involved. It doesn't make the talent look better. It doesn't make the network look better, because now you're basically saying, well, the network is paying for stupid stuff, and I'm not going to watch it, so why should you? Yeah. It's things like that it doesn't benefit anything. It's old school. Look where it's coming from, but it's old school mentality. It's the old school of, I'm not going to pay attention to this, and I guess I'm threatened by it because I don't understand it. And that's back to where smart people in the business who are constantly working and trying to get better. And Dukes and Bell and their numbers show that. They're not afraid of talking about something that's not in their wheelhouse. They make it part of their wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you grow something. And they did that because the station has the rights to the games. And they're seeing the benefit from that. So where's the disconnect here? Is it just there's no messaging? I don't know. But it comes back to the point that you're not going to have the ratings grow unless you put forth more of a commitment to show that this is not just something that we're doing because we want some soccer fans to come watch the broadcast at this time and then leave. And this is another thing that the radio station's been very pleasantly surprised about. Just like I said, we've got new people listening to soccer who were not soccer fans before but have come on board, and now they're consuming all the soccer content. That's awesome. The reverse is true for the radio station, and this is where it's got to work too. And I think the same would be true for ESPN. Soccer fans, there are some, don't get me wrong, there are some who want nothing to do with any other sport. That's fine. Every sport has that. Maybe soccer has a larger percentage of that. Maybe some of it is because of the way it's been treated for so many years. I don't know. Yeah. But soccer fans, and 92.9 can testify to this, you're getting soccer fans who wouldn't have listened to the station before, who come for the soccer, who are sticking around for everything else because they like the personalities. They go to Braves games. They go to Falcons games. They want to know more, but the personalities hook them. The personalities hook them because they're talking about soccer. Bernd has a good point here on Twitch. It's a fight between the old school and the new school within ESPN. Mina Kimes, Sarah Spain, Katie Nolan, they're talking about soccer. Some of the older folks are not. Bob Lee did, and we know that for years and years and years. A few other people who've been there for a long time will at least not dismiss it. But yeah, the comment that Cuppers references from Wilbon was baffling to me because you would never make that comment about any other programming on the network.
Yeah, would you say that about the National Football League on Monday Night Football?
You wouldn't say it about anything. You wouldn't say it about college football. You wouldn't say it about a game from the MAC. No offense to the MAC, but come on.
Hey, we've got MACtion on a Tuesday. You'll play that up.
You wouldn't dismiss it. You don't have to watch it. I'm not even asking Wilbon to watch it. Just don't dismiss the product. It's crazy. So Alex Passine is the example of what I was just saying that ESPN should be looking at. If you have people talk about soccer, and soccer fans are not unfair about this in general. You're not asking Wilbon or Carl or anybody who's not a soccer person, you're not asking them to break down a 3-4-3 versus a 4-3-3. You're not asking them for that. You want them to talk about it. You want them to enjoy it. And if you do, as Alex, as Shiva, as plenty of others have told me over the years, you will stick around at the station because you hear the passion from Carl, from Mike, from Andy, from Randy, from John, from Hugh, from everybody. You hear the passion. You hear them talk about it. They're giving it a fair shake. And you're going to stick around to hear about other things you care about and the personalities. That's what you can get out of it. Soccer people will listen to sports conversation if you treat soccer fairly, and soccer people will come to the party in that case. Sports people will come to the soccer party too, because as Bernd points out, it's changed. Everything has changed now. You've got a new generation coming through who are sports fans who don't have an issue with soccer. You know, you've grown up with it now, not like I did. I was the weird kid because we didn't have a pro team. You know, I didn't have a pro team to go watch until I was 18, until I was in my senior year of high school. And that was playing at a little rinky-dink high school stadium. You know, we didn't have that. So I was the weird kid wanting to find soccer when it didn't really exist. Now, you grow up with a team in town. You have the FIFA video games. It's on TV all the time. The World Cups are a big deal. You know, it's just frustrating because it feels like sports talk as a whole is holding itself back by not recognizing that they can gain from talking about soccer. And then we get comments like this about, well, the ratings haven't been what people expected. Well, the work hasn't gone in to grow the ratings. So what can you expect? It is what it is. You've got to put in the work across the board to grow it. Just putting a game on is not enough.
Yeah, Ricky Ricardo says that the Wilbon comment was a game involving D.C., his home base. He could have just said D.C., kept it moving.
That's all, and that's it. That's all you had to do. He didn't have to break it down and say why. He didn't have to talk anything about any players. Just say, hey, I'm pulling for the home team. What do you think? Come on. That's it. That's all you got to do. It's not hard. But the time is coming to where the people who now act that way about it, they're starting to stand out. They're not the majority anymore. They were for most of my life, the people who made those decisions. I remember sports writers, this is before Doug at the HAC, I remember sports writers at the HAC being told that they wouldn't give them any space to cover the Ruckus, to cover the early Silverbacks, because they didn't draw anybody, which they didn't really. And they're going to give more space to high school football because more people were going to high school football, more people were reading about high school football. Hard to argue with that. Well, full credit to the AJC. That's changed, and they've changed. And they've committed to it maybe more than any other newspaper in the country. It can happen, but you have to put forth the effort. So, is what it is. It's not going away, but I think that pressure is now starting to change. Just saying, well, our ratings haven't been what we hoped they'd be. That's not enough anymore. You got to start asking why, and got to start questioning why. When Wilbon trashes it before a broadcast, well, that's a big reason why.
Mm-hmm. Pseudo watch-along update, 32nd minute goalless between Toronto and New England.
Yeah, and the 9 a.m. games, I was on board with the idea. I understand why they did it. You didn't want to play at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. You probably couldn't get 3 games in a night because of logistics. You didn't want to go down that road. You tried something. It hasn't worked. It hasn't worked because the conditions have impacted the quality of the match. It hasn't worked for all those other things. And that's where I came back to. I think I said this to somebody in the last few days because Frank DeBoer was down on the 9 a.m. games. Adam John talked about the effects of it. I said I understood it from a business perspective. Colonel, sorry, I guess Spreaker just cut you off with an ad.
Oh, no.
Sorry about that. Sound issues are a little weird. We're working on some new things, so give us a little bit of time to work through it. I think, John, you're getting a little bit of reverb, so I don't know if you're away from the mic or anything going on there. So we're getting there. We're trying to improve and make it more professional as best we can, but we are a two-man shop here, so I wish we had PTI money and we could do different things, but we don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The 9 a.m. games haven't been what they hoped they would be from a lot of different levels. The soccer hasn't been as good as it could be. The effects of the conditions have been more than I thought they would. I don't know if there's a better space in the day to eliminate some of those conditions, but the business side hasn't been what they hoped it would be. That would have been the only trade-off. If they were getting more viewers, if they were getting interest, if they were creating conversation on these other shows, okay, maybe you take that trade-off. That's not happening either. So these games have not worked the way that they could have. Some of that's down to the commitment. Some of that's down to the conditions being more difficult than anyone expected. I don't know what the solution would have been outside of playing 2 games at 8 o'clock on a number of nights. And we saw that once because of reschedules. That's the only reason we saw that. That was not the plan. And people complained about it because you had 2 games on at the same time. That would have been the only other solution, was to play on separate fields and play 2 games at 8 o'clock, and these 9 a.m. games would have moved to 8 o'clock games at the same time as another game. ESPN wanted exclusive games at exclusive times if they could control that because they thought it would help the ratings. The other things haven't gone into helping the ratings, so it is what it is.
And this is that circle that we're getting into here where ESPN wanted the 9 a.m. game. We know what the 9 a.m. game numbers have been, but because of the lack of interaction between the normal programming that you see in the ESPN day part leading into and coming out of the MLS game that they wanted to have in that exclusive window where they've done no interaction around it, you see what you end up with. And it's that circle that we're seeing here with throwing this into your day part, taking away from your normal programming, but then you don't want to play and have anything with it, so you end up getting what you get. And it's a very frustrating circle for me when it comes to, you're the ones who wanted this, yet you don't want to invest the other ancillary ideas to help build this new programming idea that you have temporarily to help out, A, your broadcast partner, the league, B, bring more people under the tent. And it just goes back to the argument that we've been positing for the last 20 minutes. It's just, you wanted this, you're not investing in it, you got what you paid for.
Yeah, for example, Peter Vermees is going to be on at halftime. Put that on First Take.
Yeah.
Put Peter Vermees there. He'd be great on there. Put it there to where it's talking about the next game. You're doing a preview of Atlanta-Columbus. Get somebody on to talk about Atlanta and Columbus in Get Up or in First Take, or in Sports Center coming up. Those kinds of things are important. So we could go on and on. We're going to try to get into some different things this morning as well. We got Atlanta and Columbus to talk about ourselves, and we'll get there in hour number 2. Doug will join us at 10:30 for that. Why don't we go ahead and knock out you telling everybody about our good friend Steve Apolinsky over in Decatur.
You want to talk about somebody who's investing in a product? It's Steve Apolinsky, Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. Wrongful death and serious injury attorneys, over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama. If this is a road that you need to go down, a couple different ways that you can catch up with Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. Go to the website, aa-legal.com. Pop-up window shows up when you hit that URL, low right-hand corner. If you want to talk to somebody, ask them what they're wearing at 3 a.m. like Jake from State Farm. You
Don't
can
do that. Don't do that. That's wrong.
24/7, 365. There's a pop-up window. Instant chat available for Apolinsky & Associates at aa-legal.com. You can fire off an email individually to Steve at steve@aa-legal.com, or you can get a free consultation at 404-377-9191. Recognized as Legal Late by Georgia Trend Magazine, top 100 firms in the state of Georgia. It is Steve Apolinsky & Associates, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. The website, aa-legal.com.
As I learned about engineering and sound and things with some of the other issues we're having, that actually worked really, really well.
Remember that. What we just did?
No, nobody did anything different. It's gremlins, man, gremlins. It's crazy. It's a lot of trial and error. Guys who are engineers just blow my mind at this point for sound, because it feels like literally, all right, I'm going to plug this in here. All right, I'm going to change this. I'm going to move this. Okay, this isn't what it says I should do, but it works.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
But that's the thing. Literally, that's what it's all about. It's what works for your board at any given time. And if it ends up sounding great, looking great, feeling great, and it works, you sit there, accept it for what it is, and move on. You don't touch a thing. You just remember where your settings are, and we'll try it again tomorrow.
Yeah, that's easy to say. It's hard to do when we're out doing events and moving stuff around all the time and all that.
No doubt.
But we make it work as best we can. Let me finish up with some comments on Twitch about our previous conversation, because there's a bunch.
Okay.
Kelsey and Domer like weird kids. I was that weird kid. I don't think we're weird anymore, though. That's the cool thing about it. We're weird in different ways, maybe. How about that? Being a soccer person doesn't make us weird anymore. Cassie says, simply having a voice in the room changes things. Soccer hate was real at me as a kid, but my friends who used to do it don't now. And I noticed that during the last 2 World Cups the U.S. was in, and the Women's World Cups, because people who never wanted to talk about soccer with me started sending me messages and saying, well, hey, why'd they drop Landon Donovan from the team in 2014? What's Klinsmann doing here? What's the qualification process here? Who are the players on the women's team we should be looking at? That kind of stuff. People were getting engaged at that level. That's a start. It's then taking it to MLS and NWSL interest and USL Championship and USL League One interest for your local team on the day-to-day. Yeah. That's where I've been so happy in Atlanta, is that Atlanta became, in maybe the previous decade, a city that showed that it would consistently respond to big soccer events. That doesn't necessarily make you a great soccer city. showing up for the big Mexico game, showing up for the big friendly, cool. That's good. That's a starting point. But what Atlanta turned into was going from being an event soccer city to a day-to-day soccer city. Not every city with an MLS team has made that jump. Some still only come out for the big event, whether it was David Beckham coming to town or Zlatan or whoever. That needs to continue. The way you get the day-to-day is all this other stuff we've talked about, all the day-to-day conversation. Chico says, a lot of people don't get the terminology in soccer and the first third midfield and the final third breakdowns. Absolutely true. And I can tell you from experience with people who were terrified of that. Sometimes soccer people are a little too hard on the terminology side. I guess me growing up in other sports too, like I don't even really think about it. Like I know it's a pitch in England. I know we can call it a pitch here. We can also call it a field. That's okay. Jersey, kit, uniform. It's all interchangeable. It's not wrong to call it a uniform. It's not wrong to call it a kit. They're synonyms, really. It's the terminology is not the important part of it. And yeah, when people use the wrong terminology over and over and over again, okay. It's like, come on, put in a little time. Let's get the terminology right. But if it's new and they're getting there and everything else is good, but they're calling it a field or they call it a goaltender once in a while or things like that, I don't really care. Like offside and offsides, it doesn't matter. I know what it is. We know what it is. We know what the conversation is. Now, the stuff to that degree, getting into the thirds of the field and the way we talk about it, that's something that I keep in mind when I'm calling a game, especially on 92.9, because it is a different audience. When John and I are calling a game for ESPN Plus, if you're watching Atlanta United 2, we expect you're pretty invested in the product, and maybe we go a little bit deeper into some things there. On 92.9, we know we have some new people listening. When I'm on with some of the shows, I know that I'm talking to not just a soccer audience. So I want to introduce the terminology, and I want people to hear it and understand it, but I might say it and then go further to explain it and try to keep everybody invested in the conversation. It's hard because I think that's maybe one of the things that we've talked this morning about what the sports side needs to do to better cater to soccer and better grow the soccer side. The soccer community needs to put in that work as well in terms of putting yourself out there and get a chance to go on a show that has nobody who knows anything about soccer, but they're willing to have you on to talk about it. Go on and talk about it. And don't insult their audience because it's their audience. It's not yours. Go in and add to it. It's been great talking to the guys on ESPN Coastal when we're on with them. And they're just like the guys here in Atlanta. They're coming to it. They have different levels of knowledge or interest, and they're coming to it. They're being respectful to cover it. I'm going to go and be respectful to their audience. I'm not trying to talk down to people. I'm not trying to say, well, you used goaltender. That's wrong. I can't believe you would do that. I'm so insulted.
Can't believe you would do that.
It's, it happens. It's all good. I mean, if we start talking about baseball in depth, I'm probably going to misuse some terminology. That's okay. It happens. We need to work together to grow it. The sports community needs soccer to continue to grow because other sports are not drawing as much as they used to. And other sports who are drawing really well are not going to draw that forever because of things that are happening at the grassroots level. Soccer has growth potential. You need to treat it as such. And soccer people need to understand that we've kind of hit a little bit of a cap, or at least the growth is going to be extremely small if we don't try to appeal to your average sports fan. We need them to come to the table, too, and come hang out and come party. And that's why Atlanta's drawing huge numbers where others, you have a bubble. Seattle has a huge soccer bubble. But outside of that bubble, you don't get a lot of soccer content in Seattle. Portland has a big soccer bubble, but you don't get a bunch of soccer conversation in Portland outside of the bubble. Here, there's a bubble, but there's also just a big conversation about sports, and soccer's at the table. Soccer's not at the kids' table anymore at the Thanksgiving dinner. It's at the real table. It's at the big table, the adult table. It's very cool to see, and it's maybe one of the only places that's the case. I love all aspects of it. I mean, it's great that you have a Sirius XM channel that is dedicated to soccer and goes as in-depth as you want to go. But we need it on your ESPNs. We need it on your Colin Cowards. When Colin Coward talks about soccer, and he's been one of the more willing ones to do it, that's great. That benefits the game in such a huge way. We need that. And if Colin or somebody like Colin uses a piece of incorrect terminology sometimes, it's okay. It's all good. I'll take the trade-off. He'll learn. Keep working with him, and he'll get it. It's okay. It's a crazy thing. I don't want to keep doing this all day, but we could, but we're not.
We do. Yeah, we've got a couple of things on Twitter that are not game-related or soccer-related. So let me mop this up real quick and add these to the conversation.
Yeah, thanks, everybody, for being part of this conversation. I love it. We'll revisit it for sure.
Yeah, Rich Ransom says, still hearing the usual add pro-rel and the ratings will explode talk. The answer is always probably. And then Rich says in all caps, and the Union went undefeated in the group stage. And
the Union did go undefeated in the group stage, but they finished second to Orlando City. Just saying. I think Philadelphia has been as impressive as it gets in the tournament. I've been really impressed, even with the draw yesterday, even coming in second in the group. The Union, and hey, talking about the media side of it, the Union have added radio. There's more content happening in Philadelphia than there has been in the past. That's awesome. And that's going to help it grow more than anything, putting a winning product on the field and having a manager like Jim Curtin who will go out and talk to anybody about the game and grow the game, having a big personality like Alejandro Bedoya. That team is in a really good spot right now to grow and grow the league as part of that. It's awesome to see. The pro-rel thing, for hardcore soccer people, would it draw maybe a few more people because it's there? Maybe, potentially. It's still a maybe. Would it draw the larger sports community into it because it's there? No. Doesn't mean they would be turned off.
No.
But just adding it doesn't change that conversation. And I think in the soccer community, a lot of times we talk about, well, we've got to get the Euro snobs. Well, we've got to get the people who watch the Liga MX. We've got to get them. You know what? I think the biggest growth, to be perfectly honest, is the people who are not watching soccer. The people who are playing FIFA, the people whose kids play, the people who might have played in high school, who are not getting up in the morning to watch the Premier League, the people who are not from Mexico watching Liga MX and having their team. Those people are going to have their teams, and they might take precedence over an MLS team. That is what it is. You can't really do a whole lot about that. The biggest growth area is people who don't have a team, don't have a league, but are in the United States and consume sports. That is the biggest growth area for this game. Pro-rel doesn't change that at all. Pro-rel, we can get into the business side of that all day and go back and forth, and there's questions on both sides of it. But the bigger conversation about growing the game, it's the average sports fan who is in larger numbers than the Euro snob or the Liga MX viewer. That's where you can really grow the game. And I think Atlanta has shown a prime example to the rest of the country about that, because you've drawn from outside the soccer bubble, and it's important. So I hope that more people look at it. I hope Philadelphia continues to do that, and I hope this extra coverage that Philly's getting will help with it.
And Tafka is last in the barn with our first hour discussion. Like I said, there have been some other folks on the timeline who've talked about things related to the tournament itself and some other off-the-field things. But related to this particular discussion, Tafka says, it also doesn't help that full-time soccer people have been so apocalyptic about the tournament. You insult and decry the effort unnecessarily, then whine that the ratings are low, shrug shoulders emoji.
Tafka absolutely nailed it. I mean, that does have an impact, because I've seen it from non-soccer people who've been writing about their sports. I've seen the references to articles from hardcore soccer people, and they shouldn't protect it and lie about things. But there's a big difference in that and the way that this has been covered early on. And I've seen people talk about college football and reference, the MLS bubble, it's really struggling. No, the bubble didn't struggle at all. It was two teams that had issues from their markets that came in, and they were stopped from coming into the bubble completely. And they were kept to the side, and the bubble worked. It's a little frustrating. But yeah, Tafka's dead on. That's had an impact too, because that's turned some people off that it shouldn't have. and they haven't come back to it. And you haven't had issues since the Nashville and Dallas situations. The bubble has worked. They had the right plan.
How many straight testing cycles have we had zero positives? 3 or 4?
I think it's 4.
Yeah. So
it's all working so far. I mean, that was the idea behind the bubble. Now, there will be questions when you do what Major League Baseball is doing, but their numbers have improved as well. As Bernd has reminded us so many times about the Bundesliga, you can have the protocols. They traveled. Major League Baseball will travel. MLS is hoping to travel. You're gonna have issues because you're not in a bubble. You're gonna have some doors open to risk that wouldn't have been there before because you're not in the bubble. There's a great responsibility on the people that are involved in this in terms of players, staff, coaching staff, anybody who will be traveling, to be very responsible, very vigilant, very smart about what they do to prevent risk from coming in the door. Mm-hmm. And I think we've seen that with baseball. I think we'll see that with the NFL now that they have their plan finally agreed to. It shouldn't have even come to an issue. That you're going to do this testing. You're going to have some positives straight out of the gate. There's no way around that. Once you identify those, players, everybody involved, have to be very smart about the way they handle themselves to limit risk, just like all of us do in everything we do. We have to try to limit risk. That's where everybody's at. These athletes have it even more because they could infect players because by the nature of their job, they are going to come into contact with people, and you don't want to bring that risk into the door.
Goalless at the half between Toronto and New England, and Tafka also points out somewhat of a rhetorical question. How many articles have we seen about the bubble working? 0.
It's a good point. It's a good point. It is what it is. There's just, like I said about sports people being closed-minded about soccer, American soccer people need to stop being closed-minded about American soccer. That creeps into it as well. It doesn't do anything to grow the game, and I don't understand why it's the mentality of covering the game in this country where everything's coming from a negative perspective. Soccer in the United States is not soccer in Germany. It's not soccer in England. It's not other countries. But it should not be treated with derision on a regular basis. And it feels like it is from people who work in it. I never understood that. I've never understood that. This is ours. This is our league. It's only going to grow if the work is put in to grow it. And I don't understand why there's this fight about it's not good enough. We shouldn't cover it. Oh, this is peak MLS. This is stupid. This league is stupid. All the things that come up, and it's just, what is that doing for anything? What's the goal of that? To score points from people who wouldn't pay attention to the league anyway? I mean, to get some clicks? What? It doesn't make any sense. If you don't enjoy covering it, don't cover it. I think the people, and we've talked about Dick Vitale in this, we've talked about, the guys on College Game Day, we've talked about the people in baseball who cover it and present that passion for it. The NFL, obviously, hockey, you can go on and on. The people that appeal, if I'm not a hockey guy, who do I think of from an ESPN perspective about hockey? Barry Melrose, because he loves it, and he's passionate about it, and he gets excited about it. I think about college basketball. I'm not a huge college basketball guy. Dick Vitale, because he's going nuts about it. He's having fun. Soccer people, or non-soccer people, who do they think of a lot of times? Ray Hudson, because Ray Hudson is joyful in what he's doing. Even when he doesn't like something in a game, he's passionate. Why are we dispassionate and angry and negative and cynical about everything to do with the game here? It's just, it doesn't accomplish anything. Cynicism never accomplishes anything. It's anti-anything. Yeah. It doesn't do anything. Just cover the game, cover the sport. If you enjoy it, don't be afraid to show it. Don't be afraid to let that come out. And if you're angry about something in the game, well, be correct in the way you cover it because you care about it. There's things in the game, there's things in this country that make me very angry about soccer. But I love the game in this country. I want to see it grow. It doesn't benefit to trash it with no context. It benefits to say, this is wrong, it can be better because of X, Y, and Z. This is what needs to change to affect that. I don't know. I'm just trying not to be cynical these days. Cynicism is just the thing that drives me the craziest, and man, it is prevalent in American soccer.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I look at individuals who will put things down on paper or web or whatever you want to call it, just the words that come out of their computers and they post them, and the words that come out of their social media and they post them, and they just feel like, and I'm just going to go ahead and use a word, they're going to crap on anything that's in front of them that has to do with, oh, the tournament this, oh, MLS that. And it's just like, look, if you don't want to talk about it, then don't. You're getting paid to do a tremendous job. If you don't like your job, you could always leave. I've held on to that opinion for probably far too long in this entire discussion about the tournament. But if you're going to crap on something, why do you continue to write about it unless you just enjoy crapping on something and it makes you feel good for whatever reason? So, but yeah, if you want to crap on something and because you don't like it, then don't write about it anymore. It's a very simplistic thought, but it's just, for me, I'm tired of all the negativity. I'm tired of crapping on an idea to try to have the league come and be one of the things that was first in the barn when it came to professional sports here in the country. MLS is back, and that they call it that for a reason. And when you crap on something because they're trying to come back and be a part of the fabric and framework of both the business community and the sports community, and you just want to continue to sit there and, oh, God, now I'm getting all worked up.
Burned with a good point. I think this sums up that side of this conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys seem to wish the soccer bubble stays small. It's weird, and it's true. It happens with a band. You find a band, you find a musical artist that you love. If you're I saw it happen. I have a Rent poster behind me. I've read about some of the pushback on Rent. Well, it wasn't that good. Well, it didn't really do anything good. It brought all these bad things to the table. One of the things it did, it brought new people to Broadway at the time. Mm-hmm. And some of the regular Broadway folks didn't really care for that too much, did they? Hamilton's doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. Bands that start out and they're playing the small club, they're playing the house party, you love them then, and then they start playing arenas. Oh, they sold out. They're not as good as they used to be. It's like, I'm happy when things grow. I want things to grow. I will go talk to people about soccer who have never covered it and are interested and are curious. I love talking to those people. That's the most fun about what I do. I don't know. We do what we do, and the mentality is just genuine from me, and it's just I'm not going to have a calculated thing that I've got written down here to say, because I think then I can clip it and then I can put it in a tweet and then I can get a whole bunch of hate clicks or get a whole bunch of viral attention. We don't clip things from the show because of that. We're not catering what we're saying to get attention that way. We're just talking about the game that we care about. We're just doing what we do. We're having a conversation with all of you guys every day. So it's not about trying to get clicks. It's not about trying to be calculated with it. It's just covering the game. And I take that responsibility very, very seriously, and that I'm lucky to have the opportunity that anybody wants to hear what I have to say. And I'm not going to shortchange anybody for that. I'm going to do what I think is right, what I think has drawn people to it in the first place, and hopefully bring more people to the table. Those are the things that I'm always thinking about. So we could go, again, all on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about Atlanta and Columbus the rest of the show. Let's get into this. Jacob Myers at the Columbus Dispatch had an interview this morning, or had an article this morning, with a lot of different quotes. I want to read some of the quotes from the Columbus side for you guys. Caleb Porter said, Atlanta's still a very good team. They have a good coach. Barco and Pity Martinez are still two of the best, most dangerous players in the league. They're a difficult team to play against. Hector Jimenez, defender, said, by no means are we looking past. We want to take 9 points from these first 3 games. However, they've got some issues in terms of minutes played and injuries. And Porter said a few players might sit out tonight. Short-term injuries, managing minutes. Jimenez Jonathan Mensah on the back line. That's your left back. That is your center back and your captain. They've played 180 minutes every minute so far. Jossie Zardes has played all but 10 minutes, not including stoppage time. Darlington Nagbe, Eloy Room, both had injuries in the second half against the Red Bulls. They're being evaluated. Left back Milton Valenzuela hasn't played in the tournament because of injury. He was available off the bench on Thursday. He's being evaluated as well. So that is 2 left backs, a center back, a central midfielder, a goalkeeper, and your leading scorer, who have all played a lot of minutes and were mentioned specifically here in terms of, we'll see if maybe they are able to go 90 tonight. Porter said, we're confident we'll put a group out that will give us a chance to win the game. Porter said, we need to continue to improve and get better, so our process and our mindset is that even though we have some confidence right now, we can still be better. We're not going to be complacent, and we're not going to take this team lightly. They are into the next round. They don't have first place sealed up. They're in a really good spot for it because you would have to flip the goal differential in a big way for Cincinnati to take it. You'd have to flip it in a decent way for the Red Bulls to take it. The Red Bulls would have to win, Atlanta would have to win, and then you'd have to flip the goal differential between the two. They're in a good spot. I want to see what their lineup looks like. I have a lot of questions because of those injuries and because of the minutes that people have played. You can put the same on Atlanta in terms of minutes played, though. You know, you've got a lot of players coming into Game 3 that are not going to be 100%. Atlanta's desperate. Columbus has a bit of a luxury. They could rest players if they want to and not affect their positioning going forward.
Yeah, we mentioned it on the run-up last night that from Game 1 to Game 2, Caleb Porter swapped out 5 folks. And he felt comfortable in doing that. So he's got a look and a roster where he can go 16, 17 guys and figure out what he wants. You mentioned the injury idea. And, you know, we could be seeing some of those same guys that we saw in Game 2 at the back and in the midfield that weren't around for Game 1 and that can help out with the injury aspect of the whole thing when it comes to Columbus getting ready for the next round. I saw this, and I wanted to get your comments about what Frank DeBoer said about Darlington Nagbe yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
He said, for me, he's the best midfielder, one of the best few midfielders in the league, so we're going to miss him, that's for sure. And this was from Sunday on the conference call.
Mm-hmm.
Very important player for them, but he's going to be a very important player for any team he plays for. Not many in this league and also in Europe have that, like Frankie de Jong, Busquets, those players. They scan their environment well, and he has the same. DeBoer said Nagbe reminds him of Busquets. He will not score many goals, maybe 1 or 2 a season, but he's like the cement between the stones. He's so important for them, but also impressing when they lose the ball. He has the speed also to track back. I thought that was a great analogy for Nagbe, the cement between the stones. I love that.
Yeah, in possession, absolutely. That's how important he is. I don't think he's as strong of a defensive player as Sergio Busquets, and that's been one of the knocks when you start to figure out, where is Darlington Nagbe best on a field. Caleb Porter's used him everywhere. Not so much this time around. In Portland, he was the problem solver. If you had a problem out on the wing, Nagbe would go out to the wing. If you had a problem at the 10, he'd go to the 10. If you had a problem at the 8, he'd go to the 8. As we saw in Atlanta, Nagbe pretty much consistently played the number 8, the box-to-box midfielder. At times, we saw him drop deeper and play more as a 6. But it was infrequent, and it was generally in rotation with another central midfielder who would sometimes go, Nagbe would sit, sometimes the other way around. A couple times we saw him as a 10. I didn't really like it. You're not going to see him as a 10 in Columbus because of Zelarayan. So how can you limit Nagbe's effectiveness? What he does is he links the play. And that's the comparison to a player like Busquets. He links the build-up play. He links the back to the front. He links the team. He's vital in that. He's the one that you can always turn to change the point of attack, to change the side of the field you're on, to change the way you're attacking. You are going to have problems getting the ball off of him because everybody in this league has for years. You want to limit his options. You want to limit his effectiveness and his impact. It's the same as when you come into a game and let's take basketball for an example because you have more scoring from a player. When you come into a game and look, I can't stop this guy. He's going to get his points. There's nothing I can do there. But I'm going to limit how much he hurts me. I'm going to limit how he hurts me, and I'm going to try to take some of the other options away. That's what you have to do with a Darlington Nagbe, in my opinion. You want to break up the links between him and Zelarayan, especially. You don't want to give him those balls to the number 10. You want to make him go out wider where it's lower percentage. You don't want to give him those through balls to a Jossie Zardes. You don't want to give him anything centrally. You want to make his passes be sideways, not vertical, not where they can hurt you. He's going to have his passes. He's going to have his touches. There's only so much you can do about that. You're not going to man mark him. You don't man mark an 8. But you've got to limit what he can do vertically to hurt you.
And I would think also at the same time that, maybe a little physicality, maybe an elbow on the way by, just reminding him about.
Oh, no, you absolutely do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you absolutely do that. That's not going to stop him either. But yeah,
no.
you have to do that with any player. I mean, that's just part of the game, and this team knows that. Atlanta United's got that street smarts about them. Eric Remetti, Franco Escobar, Jeff Larinowitz, these are guys who can handle themselves, and these are guys who know how the game is played. And Darlington Nagbe, coming from this team, he knows how the game is played, and he takes a couple shots from people. That's how it is. That's what you do. You can take a player, out of being locked in mentally if you knock them down a few times. They have to get up, and those things can affect the game. They absolutely can. We see teams try to do that to Ezequiel Barco, to Pity Martinez. Atlanta can do the same. There's nothing wrong with that. Same with Zelarayan. You've got to put a hit on people sometimes, and you've got to get physical. I think at times, and we talked about it a lot on the run-up, we've talked about it in the build-up to this, transition play has been a bit of a problem. Atlanta's been a little passive at times in transition play. Get stuck in. Commit the tactical foul. Do the things that you have to do to prevent those transitions, and also to maybe make players think about coming into that zone. That's one thing when you look at this midfield pairing, and I see some of the lineups on Twitch that people are discussing. The midfield pairing, to me, is the key tonight. Because I think we know what the back line's going to be with Meza, with Robinson, with Escobar. I think the wing backs, we have a pretty good sense of, Brooks Lennon, George Bello, Edgar Castillo could factor in. John Gallagher's more of a long shot, but you kind of know what the wing back's going to be. Pity Martinez and Ezequiel Barco are going to be in there. I think Adam John gets the start up top.
Yep.
But what is the midfield duo going to be? Is it Heineman? Is it Adams? Is it Remetti? Is it Larinowitz? Is it Hosetu? Or is it a wild card like an Anton Walks factoring in there? Is it something else changing? I think the 5 guys that I mentioned first are the options for the 2 holding midfield spots. What is it going to be? Is it going to be Jeff in there for defense, to be a true 6, to put that hit on people as he need to be a little more physical, to win the second ball? Is it a Mo Adams who can do those things as well? Adams is good at shutting down opposing number 10s. Are you going to give him that role, task him with that, and say, focus here? Are you going to go with 2 players like a Hosetu and a Heineman or a Remetti who can give you both, who can get forward, can get back, can cover a lot of ground, can win the ball, but can also impact the attack? What is going to be the best platform for success with this team? It's been disjointed in this tournament, as I think you could expect without the preseason games. It's been more disjointed than I thought it would be. That's the number one thing that I'm looking for tonight, is I want the team to look more cohesive. You can have the right lineup and get the wrong result. I want to see the right performance tonight, even beyond the result. I want to see the right performance, and I want to see the team look cohesive. Hopefully these 2 games have helped with that. I wish you'd had 11v11 in the Thursday game to help with that even more. You didn't. You had to battle. You didn't battle enough. You lost. You've got to be more connected. The midfield's a vital part of that. Going back to what Frank DeBoer said about Nagbe and being, that, what about cement? What was the word?
Cement between the stones.
The cement between the stones. Atlanta hasn't had that. It's not because Nagbe's not here. It's because you have players who can do it, but it's felt disconnected. It's felt like stones being stacked up, and sometimes they're falling over. You need something to link it. You need it. It's critical. And this team too much has felt at times like, okay, attacking with Pity and Barco, and sometimes getting the wingbacks forward, kind of unorganized. I think that's where Adam John can help and give you a pivot up top. And then at other times it's been everybody going forward. And Escobar's gone, Ameza's gone, and the wingbacks have gone. And then it's disjointed in the way you recover and rebuild the stone fort. Those are the things that have to get better here. It has to be more connected. And until Atlanta gets to that point and it's more connected in the way that they play, they're going to struggle. They're going to be reliant on individual plays. And they have talent who can get them through in those individual moments. That's asking a lot. That's turning things into a game of chance. If you control the game, and you control the game by being connected, you're not turning it into a game of chance. You're dominant. Atlanta hasn't been dominant enough. They had some dominance against the Red Bulls. They had some dominance against Cincinnati in the first half. They haven't been dominant enough, and they've been way too disconnected.
Nick is referring to Nagbe as the Steve Nash of MLS.
That's a pretty good one. The pushback I would have is that Nash got respected more when he won a couple of MVPs, and Nagbe I don't think gets enough respect across the league. It's only starting to. I think being here in Atlanta helped with that. No, Stockton was on Dream Teams. I mean, you're talking. It's hard because basketball, your five guys show up more in the box score and in the highlight reel than a holding midfielder who's a linking player, who's not showing up on the goal sheet, not showing up on the assist sheet. You have to look a little bit deeper to find a Darlington Nagbe. So it's a hard comparison. I mean, honestly, taking the personality out of it, Nagbe's a lot like a Rodman, in that Rodman showed up in numbers that aren't as important in the basketball conversation and rebounding. He didn't really care about scoring points. Mm-hmm. He didn't really care too much about assists. He was there to fight and get a rebound and to play defense. And it was the stuff that doesn't get respected as much. And you'll have people who will say that, oh, well, Rodman was just a specialist here and that's all he was. People kind of say the same things about Nagbe, is that he only does these things. It's not enough to play, et cetera, et cetera. He should be a national team player. He should have been a number one name on the lineup sheet for a long time because of that talent. But it's not as obvious of a talent. You've got to deal with him tonight. You've got to deal with whoever pairs with him. Artur has generally been the running buddy with this team. Neither one are big-time defensive midfielders. So for a Pity Martinez, for an Ezequiel Barco, you're pretty happy about that matchup. You want to pin those guys back. You want to make them defend. It's not what they like to do. If it's Sebastian Berhalter, who played well to start the match against Red Bulls, 57 minutes, was one of the leaders in touches and passes. They didn't shy away from playing to him. He's a teenager. You want to make him have to defend Pity Martinez and Ezequiel Barco in 1v1 opportunities, sometimes 2v1. You want to use your midfield to give the support to Martinez, to Barco, anybody else who can factor into those roles, if it's Lennon coming inside, if it's Bello coming inside, because Columbus's soft spot is their midfield from a defensive standpoint. It's one of their strengths in possession, but you don't want those, or if you're Columbus, you don't want those guys having to defend very much. It's not their game. So you've got to put the pressure on there. That's where I feel like, in the previous matches, I talked a lot about feeling like Atlanta had opportunities out wide. Against Red Bulls, they play a 4-2-2-2. It's very narrow. You can get space out wide. You got to win the battles out wide. They did some, not enough. Against Cincinnati, Cincinnati was just sitting back so deep, you had to try to beat people 1v1. They did a few times, not enough. This is a game where you need to beat them through the middle. You need to beat through the middle, and you need to take advantage of the fact that Columbus doesn't really have a true defensive midfielder. That's where you need to attack them. And you have players in Pity, Martinez, and Barco who can do that. They need to find those combination opportunities in the middle of the field. It needs to be more connected.
Sharif Solomon's in this morning, and he says he's looking at all the latest published permutations for win pathways. Does it seem like any Atlanta win and a Vancouver win is the shortest path? That's the first question.
I know that's one of them. I don't know if it's the shortest, but I know that's one of them.
What's the easiest or also the most likely to succeed path after the Atlanta win to allow us to advance?
Man, I got to look at Mike's tweet because he had it all spelled out. So, I mean, the biggest thing, you got to win first. You can't control anything else. So you win. if you win, you're in a pretty good spot, to be perfectly honest, because of all the different things that are possible. You win. You can't have Red Bulls and Cincinnati draw. That's out of your control. If they draw, you're out. There's nothing you can do about that. If that doesn't happen, and a draw is not the most likely scenario there, I don't think, then okay. Then you're asking for a Galaxy or Houston draw. You're asking for the Galaxy to win by 3 goals or less. That's possible. You're asking for Vancouver to beat Chicago by 2 goals or less on Thursday. I mean, there's so many different things that can happen. I think if you beat Columbus and then that game doesn't finish in a draw between Red Bulls and Cincinnati, you're going to find a way into the knockout round.
Yeah.
It really feels that way. If one of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I doesn't happen, then, look, I mean, you're not supposed to get through anyway on 3 points. But the way this has fallen, it's right there for you. You just have to beat Columbus, and you have to hope the other game in your group doesn't finish in a draw.
Yeah.
You're in the situation where you're hoping, but, man, that's a lot of possibilities. I think you find a way through if you get the win. But you got to get the win, and that's the hardest part of all of this.
Yes. That first and foremost, take care of your own business and look at the Red Bull Cincinnati match and make sure that that's not a draw. Then go from there. I think that you get through those first 2 things in your group, take care of your own business. Then I think you've got a good shot without having your head hurt looking at Mike's 9 thought patterns and permutations for getting into the next round.
Yeah, I mean, Bartimus Prime on Twitch said our biggest problem is lack of goals scored. Every other third-place team will have scored multiple goals, which is the third tiebreaker. I don't think it gets to the third tiebreaker. I think you win, you're going to get the results you need before it gets to tiebreakers. I think you're going to be okay. I'm with Ropes, and I've mentioned this. I think Ropes says, I think most were expecting more because Atlanta United had more time in market training since Brian Kemp opened up Georgia so early. They did. But what we've seen, and I thought it'd be better too, what we've seen is that the time training has helped the fitness. Atlanta's fitness has not been a question. Everybody was tired at the end of the 9 a.m. game that was a sauna. That there's nothing you can do about that. But fitness has not been the issue for Atlanta. It's been sharpness. And all that training doesn't necessarily help with that because you're not playing matches. You're not playing competitive fixtures. You're not playing friendlies. It hurts you in that regard. That's been a bigger mountain to overcome than I thought it would be. It's shown. You've also had things, the worst things that can happen go against you. You can't give up early goals. That's always a bad thing, no matter if we're playing in a pandemic or not. And you can't have first half red cards. Those are things that just you're incredibly limiting your opportunities to win if you give up a goal in the 4th minute and you give up a red card in the 26th. You had both of those happen in each game. So you've made the road a whole lot harder for yourself in a lot of different ways. It was already going to be hard. You made it harder by these things as well.
Yeah. And for me, like I said, I keep going back to the idea, take care of your own business first, worry about what you can control, then sit there and stare at everything else. Because if you get wrapped up in everything else around you, you're not locked into your own task at hand, and then you're distracted from what you need to be focused on from the absolute beginning. So just focus on tonight, and like you, I want to see what that Columbus lineup looks like. I want to see how much roster rotation, for lack of a better word, knowing that Caleb Porter is comfortable going 5-6 deep from that normal starting 11, and I'll put that in quotes. I want to see what that Columbus lineup looks like and see what the discussion is for Atlanta. We'll have Doug Robertson on in just a little bit because, hey, you know what? I actually looked on his Twitter feed and found his starting 11 before the segment started this time.
Good job. He won't yell at you. He might still yell at you, honestly, but he won't yell at you about that at least.
Yeah, so I've got a question for Doug about his starting 11, and it's the one that we've been having the last couple of days. But no, I want to see what that Columbus lineup looks like and what it looks like there in the middle.
Bern Dursberger on Twitch with a good point. Didn't Caleb Porter set up Columbus to counter us last year, the game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and it worked? How will Frank de Boer react to that today? You've got to take advantage of your opportunities. I'm going to look that up really quick because Bern is right. Columbus sat back a little bit more than they typically do. Again, Caleb Porter will be pragmatic. If the game calls for it, he will sit back, and he has no problem doing that, and he's not going to feel bad about it. He'll do whatever it takes to win. and I want to look at how many chances Atlanta had in that match, because if I'm remembering it correctly, it was one of those maddening ones where you had opportunities, you didn't convert, you give up goals going the other way, you get punished. And in a game like this where you've got to get that result, you've got to convert on your opportunities. Let me see if I can pull this up. It's not going to let me get there. I'll have to double-check it later, Bern, but I think you're right. I mean, I know you're right in terms of Columbus's approach. I think what happened is Atlanta had some opportunities early, couldn't get anything out of it, and then you got hit. Luis Diaz's speed out wide was a problem. That's where you got to be careful. And that's, we go back to risk with Frank DeBoer and with Atlanta United. The team is pushing numbers forward. Wal Chara says he wishes the team was fun to watch. I don't think the play is as bad as Wal Chara says. I think the play has actually been okay. The 9 a.m. game's a little bit different. Again, our first half red card, you throw it out a bit. Yeah. The Red Bulls game, they played well. I don't have a problem with the way they played in the Red Bulls game. The lack of goals, absolutely have a problem with that. But you have to convert. You have to take advantage. And you have to be careful about how much you risk, because you're not going to win the match necessarily. First half goals change everything. But you don't seal it by being overly aggressive in the first 10 minutes, not getting a goal, and then giving up a goal the other way. You've got to be careful. You've got to win today. You don't have to win by 3. You don't have to win by 4. You don't need any of that. You've got to win, period. Mm-hmm. And if you win 1-0, that can be enough to get you through. Yeah. You've got to win. Wal Chara, no, I'm with you, Wal Chara. Like, I think some of it, too, is like, you want this team to do better, and you want them to play better. LAFC and their games, they've played teams with bad defense. So Columbus has played really well. Philadelphia, I think, has played really, really well. San Jose plays a wild style to begin with. I think Atlanta can be better, don't get me wrong. I don't think they've been as bad as the results have shown, but they've got to find goals. It's as simple as that. Goals can cloud the way we think about a match. You can play somewhat badly, but you score a spectacular goal. We have a pretty warm feeling coming out of the building. You can play great, beautiful soccer in the build-up, beautiful connective play, no goals. You can have a cloudy feeling coming out of the building. Goals change everything. It's a simple game when you get down to it. Whoever scores the most goals wins the game. The other stuff is where we'll talk about it all week. We'll talk about it for hours and hours. It's what every soccer fan anywhere in the world does. But the goals is what it comes down to, and Atlanta has not scored them. Period. It's just that simple. And they've conceded 2, which isn't bad. You give up a goal a game, it's not bad. You got 0 to show for it? That's bad. And that's the problem. That's what it comes down to. All right, let's cross our fingers. And let's hope that we get Doug on the line with not anybody else falling off the line. Yeah. John, you should probably cross your fingers more than anybody.
60-second minute update while you're trying to get Doug. Bo and Pania are now in for New England. Rowe is out. And 60-second minute, it is goalless. A set-piece opportunity for Toronto ended up easily saved, so that is where we are.
All right. We'll see if New England, with bringing their big guns into this, change the conversation a little bit. Doug, you watching this New England-Toronto game?
I am.
What do you think?
As it is.
9 a.m. games, man, I tell you.
New England's played a lot better in the second half and just has no precision in the 18. And Toronto just, had a 4-on-2 that they couldn't convert. Just a typical 9 a.m. game is what we're seeing.
Yeah, a little disjointed. What are your thoughts about tonight? This is a weird situation for Atlanta United. I can't honestly think of an easy comparison for this. What's your thoughts about where Atlanta United is coming into this, the mood, the vibe? Just how do you feel about this match tonight?
Well, part of me is like, well, Atlanta United has done well in tournament games, but then I got to thinking, no, actually they haven't. It just depends on the viewpoint you want to take, because they were bounced in the first round of the playoffs in a must-win game, in 2017. bounced by Toronto last year when they had everything to play for, bounced by Toronto in the finale of the 2018 regular season when they had everything to play for. And tonight they again have everything to play for. And their form coming in is just, it's not good. So, I'm not very optimistic about getting the result they need tonight.
And Doug, as I told Jason before you came on, I actually did go back and look at your proposed starting 11 for this match before asking you about it and throwing. So, and I know that over the last day or so, we've been discussing on the show and really on the network across multiple shows. We're pretty much in agreement, everyone across the board, on 7 or 8 of the positions. There were, in looking at your starting 11, there were a couple that were different from me and from other folks. You have in the midfield Mo Adams and Emerson Hyndman, and you had Manuel Castro instead of Adam John. What was your rationale in bringing those 3 into the discussion where we're pretty much across the board agreeing on the other 8?
Well, it's the same starting 11 as against Red Bulls. It's just Barco coming in for Rossetto is the only change. The thinking is they created more chances against Red Bulls than they created against Cincinnati. So I'm not quite sure why they wouldn't roll out this lineup again, give Barco the start instead of Rossetto, and see if they can get an early goal that gives everybody some hope.
Yeah, those early goals are key. And Atlanta United hasn't found any goals, period, but they conceded the early goal to the Red Bulls. Is it, in your mind, we've talked about shape with you, we've talked about personnel with you. Is it anything specific, or is it just getting games and just getting minutes and building that connection?
I think it's a combination of those things. I wouldn't be surprised to see Adam John start either, because he really has not got a run out yet. He came on, in the final minutes and put a shot on goal against Red Bulls, and then had to be subbed off because of Jake Mulroney's 2 yellow cards. But in this game, I keep going back to last year when they tried this 3-4-3, and I got the vibe that the players just didn't like it. That's why they had the team meeting before that Columbus game. That's why you started to see the formation change, because the players just couldn't get it and didn't like it. And so that's why I was stunned that they came out with it against Red Bulls. I was stunned at how adamant Frank was about this is the formation for this team. But I just don't think the players look comfortable in it. I don't think that it does whatever it is Frank wants it to do. It looks to me like they never have enough players going forward, and then they never have enough players going back. They're always outnumbered, which was kind of the case last year. So if they come out in it again, I guess this is the formation they're going to use, and it's just going to be a matter of getting some games before they can figure out the patterns.
When it comes to Columbus, Doug, I know that there are 3 guys that we all focus on as to level of danger: Zardes, Zelarayan, and Darlington Nagbe. If you could rank those 3 in your levels of most dangerous and down, what would your ranking system be for a danger focus tonight with those 3 guys?
Danger in terms of scoring?
Danger in terms of whether or not, A, they score, or B, leading to scores, just interaction in general when it comes to success for Columbus. Who would you sit there and say, okay, most dangerous if Columbus is to be successful? Who is second? Who is third, you think?
Zardes first, Zelarayan second, Nagbe third, because Zardes only needs 1 touch, and that's typically how he scores his goals. And if he gets that 1 touch, then Atlanta United can be done. It can be done as early as the first minute if they're not locked in and there's an early cross put in. Zelarayan, because you saw his free kick the other day, it was fantastic. He looks like a fantastic buy for Columbus. And Nagbe, it's not that he's dangerous, it's that the other 2 I think are more dangerous. Nagbe, nobody qualifies Nagbe as being dangerous. They just qualify him as being very, very good. arguably, one of the best midfielders in MLS.
Yeah, not the guy who's going to get you the goals and the assists, but the guy who's going to make those things happen and just link everything, and that's the fear here. You look at Columbus' situation, and Caleb Porter's talked about it this week. They've got some key players who've played a lot of minutes. They've got some injury concerns. Do you think they field as close to a first-choice lineup as they have available tonight?
Yeah, I think they do. You want to keep momentum going. You want to keep confidence going. And they're playing well. They're a confident team. I don't think they want to risk turning over their starting 11 and losing the vibes that they're developing right now. So, I mean, you could see 3 changes to the starting lineup, but they didn't start a few guys in the second game that could have started, and our starter quality, I should say. So I think, if you saw the 3 changes, they're still going to be a good team, still a dangerous team, still more than capable of beating Atlanta right now.
When you look at Columbus and you look at Atlanta, we've talked about this particular matchup. Let's go to the other part of the group. And when I know that Mike had like 9 different ideas for Atlanta United to get through, but when you look at the group in general, when you look at Columbus, you look at Atlanta, you look at Red Bulls, you look at Cincinnati, what have been some of your other takeaways from the group play in general so far?
God bless Mike for figuring all that out, for starters.
Same.
He's very, very good at what he does, and I appreciate it, and I think probably those who support the team appreciate it. Red Bulls don't look to be a good team. Cincinnati, even though it beat Atlanta, does not look to be a good team. Columbus looks to be a very, very good team, maybe the class of the East. And Atlanta United, I don't think, knows what it is. It's got to find somebody to score goals because the defense, it looks okay, but you keep losing 1-0 these last 2 games and not getting a whole lot of shots on goal. That's just not a good sign. They've got to find somebody that they can start winning games 1-0. That's the turnaround they need.
All right, you want to get into some predictions, Doug?
I predict this game is going to end 0-0. Toronto and New England.
Okay, good call. That's a good one. I like that.
Because it's a 9 a.m. game.
Well, Doug, you don't.
That Frank doubled down on that yesterday.
Yeah, that's true. Doug, you don't think Michael Bradley's going to get a game winner here?
No, he's already got 1 yellow card for a tackle that probably should have been a red card.
That was a pretty bad tackle. I agree.
That was just horrible. But I mean, why not? He scored. Remember, he scored 2 goals. It was either last year or the year before in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
And those are the only 2 goals he scored all season. That was it for the whole year.
Well, Darlington Nagbe doesn't score a bunch of goals either. Just saying. He could be a late runner and score a goal. All right, what do you think?
Of course, I think Bradley's always a late runner, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
I do like Toronto's uniforms because you can actually see the names and numbers on the gray.
Hallelujah.
That's a nice switch. Haven't seen that with Atlanta United's away kits in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I'd like some outlines, please, on numbers. It'd be really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not blaming Atlanta United for that. That's an Adidas
It's an Adidas thing, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, John, you're going to kick us off with predictions. What you got?
Okay, well...
2-1. Okay, next.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Well, get this. Okay, so Nick and Jarrett are saying a 2-1 loss for Atlanta United. Just because of that, I'm going to go with the Velvet Driving Slipper Special and go 2-1 Atlanta United.
2-1 Atlanta. Okay. Jarrett and Nick have gone 2-1 Columbus. Doug, Correct. What do you think?
I think it's going to be a 2-0 loss for Atlanta United. I just don't see them scoring any goals, which is a really weird thing to say. But just based upon the first 20-something minutes against Cincinnati and based upon Red Bulls, it just doesn't look likely right now.
I'm going to be somewhat optimistic, not by much, and I'm going to go 1-0 Atlanta. I think it's going to be tight. I think Man, I really think that if Adam John gets an extended run out tonight, he will help this team make more sense in the attack. I think he just gives you a pivot to base your attack around, and I think he can get a goal.
I agree with that. Yep.
I think he can get a goal for you. I mean, this is a guy who did really well in the USL Championship last year. He's not just a big guy who scores goals off crosses. He's a good forward, and I think he can make Pity Martinez and Ezequiel Barco better and give them somebody to play off of. And I think those two guys are going to be the key to the game, but John gets the goal, and Atlanta wins a narrow, tight, nail-biting 1-0 match.
I like Adam. I think he is a good player. I couldn't understand why everybody was banging on him after the Cincinnati game. I thought he did the job he was supposed to do very, very well. Mm-hmm. And I was really stunned that he didn't start against Red Bulls. Against Red Bulls. For that reasons you just mentioned. So I think it would be nice to see him get a start and a run out just to try to show what he can do.
All right, what else do you have coming up between now and the game? And then I guess we're going to try to do a Southern Fried Soccer tomorrow, or are we going to do it late night tonight? What's the plan?
No, we can do it tomorrow.
Okay,
we're both going to be busy tonight.
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for always joining me. I've got a box on Columbus, a little preview box kind of thing that I've started doing this year, and I think that's probably it. The predicted 11 was up this morning. The game preview story I posted yesterday. You can find that at Doug Robertson AJC. And do y'all have a minute?
Yeah.
I want to float something to y'all.
Uh-oh.
So you watch these other MLS games, and the quality has actually been, the night games particularly, has been pretty good. You see the guys from South America that a lot of teams are buying, and the passing patterns and stuff. And it's almost like everyone watched what Atlanta United did its first two seasons, kind of adopted that blueprint of player buying and style of play and passing patterns, and has kind of gone forward, while right now Atlanta United has just kind of, I don't want to say gone backward, but hasn't advanced like everyone else. It reminds me a little bit of this fallacy people have about the United States men's national team. It just needs this and this, and it's going to be as good as the other teams, but they don't factor in, well, the other teams are also improving as well.
Right.
So it's not that it's not just keeping pace, it's that you have to be exponentially better just to try to match that level. And that's kind of what Atlanta United hasn't taken that exponential step, and some of the other teams have. And that's why they are looking pretty good, and Atlanta United just kind of has not for a while.
I don't disagree with that. I think some other teams had more room to grow by taking that step, and they've closed that gap. And Atlanta United, doing what they did, set a standard, and it's harder to grow from that standard, which was very high. So when other teams are catching up to that standard, yeah, you have these kinds of matches. You have things that are a little more evenly balanced. I think the U.S. men's national team comparison's dead on, because MLS has had a huge hand in benefiting CONCACAF as a whole. And while the U.S. is better now than they were in 1996 when MLS started, I think Honduras, Guatemala, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica are all better than they were by an even larger amount, because their players are getting to play in MLS in a better league than they've typically had access to.
I tweeted that a couple of years ago and just got shouted down by everybody on Twitter. That I was just absolutely dead wrong. But you see it.
I got your back, Doug.
The Central American countries, the Caribbean countries, their players are coming over here. It's a better standard of play, better standard of living, nutrition, fitness, and they're all benefiting. And the U.S. players, I guess it's been good for depth, but really not good for creating impactful players. And that's nobody's particular fault. It's just how it's happened,
We'll see now. You've got a Christian Pulisic. You've got a Gio Reyna, who's very young but is showing some impact.
That's not Major League Soccer.
Right.
They're going overseas. That's what I'm saying. It's not MLS's fault. It's just kind of how it's happened.
Well, the thing, Pulisic wasn't in an MLS academy. Reyna was for part of his youth time. Pulisic did develop a lot in Pennsylvania before he went to Germany. They broke through professionally over there, but just in general, the U.S. side of things, it's It's coming. I mean, you haven't had a Landon Donovan produce in a while. You haven't had a Clint Dempsey produce in a while. But maybe Pulisic and Reyna become those transformational kind of talents, and then the base is better than I think it's ever been. But if you have that specialness on top, maybe it feels different.
Yeah, but those are all. I mean, Adams, McKinney, I guess Josh Sargent, though I don't rate him as well as other people do. They're all young players in Europe, not young players in Alphonso Davies for Canada. Started as a young player in Major League Soccer, but has really become
Well,
something
Adams did too
in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing, and that's where MLS is going to have to be for right now.
It's not Major League Soccer's fault. It's just how it is.
It's where they are right now until they get to that point where a Weston McKennie signs with FC Dallas instead of going overseas.
Right.
Developing in their academy, he decides to stay, and Tyler Adams, instead of going to play in Germany, decides, what, I can do all of that here right now, and I'm going to stay, and I'm going to sign another contract here, and that's going to take a little bit of time.
That is true.
All right, Doug. Well, thanks for the time. Appreciate it. Normally, I would be seeing you this evening at the match.
Awesome.
Not this time around, but hopefully soon we'll see each other at a match.
He was offside this Toronto game. Come on, man.
Yeah, I thought he was. Didn't convert it anyway.
Nope. All right, guys. We will talk to y'all. I'll talk to you tomorrow, Jason.
All right.
Say howdy.
All right. Bye, guys.
Have a good one, Doug.
You too.
Doug Robertson from the AJC. Make sure you're following him, Doug Robertson, AJC, on Twitter. Lots of content from Doug right now, the rest of the day, and then after the match. And I'll catch up with him in the morning for a Southern Fried Soccer episode. We normally do those after every game, but it's weird. Like, games are weird right now. Even the Twos game was weird this weekend with nobody else there. It's just a weird environment, and we're all trying to figure this out as we go.
That is true. We have folks on the Twitters with thoughts, both game and not game related.
Okay.
So let me go back to our first non-game related thought in the queue from Turner Kirby this morning. He says, a non-Atlanta United question for Tuesday Thoughts. How would you arrange an American Super Cup, a Community Shield type game? Would you do MLS Cup versus Supporter Shield, MLS Cup versus Open Cup, and when would you do it? Would you rather the winner of that game have the Campeones Cup berth rather than MLS Cup winner?
I kind of like the idea of putting them in the Campeones Cup, actually. That's a pretty cool twist that I hadn't thought of. I would do it between the MLS Cup winner and the Open Cup winner. And if it's the same team that does both, then I would put the MLS Cup runner-up in place of the MLS Cup winner. That's the way I would go with it. We have a VAR situation going on in Toronto and New England at the moment.
Uh-oh.
And Bruce Arena did not get his way.
He's being waved away.
Yeah, it's not good.
Does anyone know what's going on here?
I don't think he's saying that.
Bruce.
I think he's saying a few other things. I don't have the sound up, but maybe the dump button was hit.
Is the dump button being used this morning for ESPN?
Maybe, possibly. With Bruce involved and Greg Vanny involved and Josie Altidore involved, there's a pretty good chance the dump button is getting a workout this morning. All right, what else do we have on? Yeah, I would go MLS Cup and U.S. Open Cup winner, and I would have that go to Campeones Cup. I'm good with that. Cool, I like that idea. Let's do it. Book it.
Bartimus Prime, do we find it weird that final group matches aren't even played on the same day?
Yeah, I don't like it. I understand it because these are all regular season games, so you shouldn't be doing the shenanigans that we have seen from time to time with teams, not playing in that third game or handshaking their way to a draw or those kinds of things. That shouldn't happen because all these games count in the regular season, but I do think they should be played on the same day. In a perfect world, a normal tournament without regular season, things going on, the games would be played at the same time. And I understand, again, I think ESPN and Fox and 2DayNA wanted exclusive broadcasts. They thought it would improve the ratings. Maybe it would. From a competitive standpoint, it would be better if they were played at the same time. They should be played at least on the same day.
Rich Ransom, he says that after sighing verbally or in a written form, he says he's guilty about the small soccer bubble idea. I sometimes go, meaning Rich. We've asked to join the union bandwagon when it was open, and you said soccer sucks. Don't join now when we're good, end quote.
Yeah, I get it, but that's the time where people are going to join, and that's the time where people are going to get excited. And I think you have to find that balance. I guess my thing about it, because I was the one in my neighborhood. I mean, the '86 World Cup when I was 9. There wasn't anybody else in the neighborhood who played soccer. Nobody even heard of it. I'd only played it one season at the YMCA, and I didn't have anybody to play soccer with in the backyard. So I kicked the ball off the wall and tried to create goals myself, kicking it between two trees. And then when I moved to Lexington, Kentucky, when I was in middle school, there were a few kids in the neighborhood who played. And during the 1990 World Cup, we played out the games 2v2 in the backyard and made it all up and had our bracket and played it and just had fun with it. I like that it's now not like that. I like that everybody's got people who are interested in it. I'm cool with new people coming in. That's just where I'm at, because I've been there and done that, and I don't want it to always be small. It reminds me of the band conversation, and I think of, there was a band that I loved in college that didn't make it big, Jump Little Children. They were from Charleston. They did the Southeastern College circuit a lot. They got on a major label. They had some songs get played on your Party of Fives and shows like that. Who's the guy from Scrubs? The main guy,
Zach Braff.
Zach Braff. Zach Braff became a big fan of them later on and put their music in his stuff. And they got to that point where they almost got big, and they didn't. But as they were getting to that almost, they were getting more attention, and new people were coming on board, people like Zach Braff. And, the shows, you'd see people who, you didn't see at the previous round of shows. And it's like, well, who are you? Where did you come from? I'm cool with that because, my mindset was always, well, the thing that I love is this band and the music they make. If more people buy a ticket, if more people come into the show, if more people get involved and more people shout them out, then they're going to be able to do more music, and they're going to be able to eat better, and they're going to be able to better take care of themselves and their families. So that's what I want. And that's kind of where I'm at with soccer. I've been one of those guys who's grinded with an NPSL team and driven a van between, Chicago and St. Paul, Minnesota for a playoff game, and then had to drive it back overnight so we could catch our flight. I've driven to Huntsville, Alabama many times, many different ways between here and Huntsville to play Rocket City and get games in. And, rode an ambulance with a player who broke his leg in Greenville in the first year of our NPSL team and had to navigate the whole process with him. You put in that time, and, that's a penalty. Toronto with a penalty very, very late.
Yep.
I don't deserve anything special because of that. I don't want the next generation to have all of that grinding in the same way. I want it to be easier. So I want it to grow. I don't want the people who are working at MLS teams or USL Championship teams to have to suffer because some people were late to the party. I'm just glad they're at the party. And I want to see that grow. It is a tough balance. I do get it. But for me, this game, this team, this whole thing with SDH and the game growing in the South, it's not about me. That's going to get looked at on if it's in the box or not. It's not about me. It's not about the individuals. It's about the game. And I'll always want the game to win, not the individuals. So if that means we get more people to the party, this is going to get looked at. It might be outside the box. I think it is. More people to the party means a better party. And it means the people who are collecting whatever money is coming in from the party will be in a better position to have a better party next time. So I'm all for it.
There you go. MLS Key at, or I guess, is it MLS Key or MLS Quay? Because if it's Quaalude 3, I guess it's MLS Quay. Random thought. Does Atlanta United's playing style naturally make opponents want to bunker and or flood the middle? I'm sure we have counters, but fans shouldn't be surprised by what opponents do to match.
It makes teams want to bunker, absolutely. That was good work by the referees in this match, and I'm not surprised with it being Marufo. They got that right. I don't know who the VAR is, but yeah, it was outside the box, came back, got it right, perfectly handled. The way MLS or the way Atlanta United plays, the way that they have the talent that they do, teams say it every time. It's no surprise anymore. Teams have a ton of respect for this roster. I'd seen the idea floated that teams didn't respect Atlanta United anymore because they're not winning games in this tournament. Nah, Columbus isn't going to say we can play them straight up. Teams are going to play Columbus straight up more likely than they're going to play Atlanta straight up because Atlanta has a history of success. Atlanta has a level of talent. So it's harder. But that's what happens to top teams. Every team that is a top team or becomes a top team has to deal with that challenge. Oh, was that maybe a handball?
That's what I thought.
It looked like the arm was out. It was from right next to him, but I thought that might have been a handball in Josie Altidor's shot. Yep. Sorry, Shooter McGavin. I know you're probably screaming and throwing things watching this. But I think Atlanta's game, Atlanta who they are, just it makes it easier for teams to sit back and bunker because they don't want to get hurt. That's the easier approach. And Atlanta has to find ways to counteract that, and they have to get better at counteracting that. Last year they did. Over time, as the season went on, they got better and better at it. They need to find that ground here quickly. I don't think Columbus necessarily sits back and bunkers. I think they sit back and they look to counter. I want to see this one more time.
Yeah.
The arm's out. That's a handball.
Yeah.
The shot might have been going up into the screen, but that's a handball.
Yeah. Panilla's left arm was out at a 90-degree angle.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult because the ball is right there. The distance makes it very hard, but his arm's out away from his body. That could have easily been called a handball.
And Nathan Pugh, at the beginning of hour number 2, says that he doesn't watch all MLS. Oh, by the way, Nathan, up the Reds. Good morning.
What's up, Nathan? Hope you're doing well.
I don't watch all MLS matches because a lot of them just aren't good. I watch my team in big matches. I don't watch NWSL or USL because I just don't find it to be good footy. I also don't watch Conference USA or MEAC football because it's just not that good. It's not cynicism. I just personally don't find a lot of it to be entertaining or worth my time. If the sport isn't good or talent subpar, I don't watch. If you're tired of people crapping on soccer, then stop talking about people crapping on it. Not everyone's going to like it.
I don't know the last part where to go with that at all. I disagree the NWSL is subpar. In terms of the women's game, I think it's the best league in the world, and I enjoy the women's game. That's just me. Some people don't. That's fine. I don't think it's subpar. I don't think the league's been subpar. There's subpar games in every league. It's the conversation. This is where I go with it in that it deflected up into his arm. That's going to probably give Penilla the benefit of the doubt here. That last angle was really good. My conversation about it is this. People crapping on soccer is people crapping on soccer. I don't care. People who are partners with the league crapping on the league is a waste of your money because you invested in carrying the league, and why are you saying it's a bad product? That doesn't make any sense. They don't do that for the MAC or the lesser college football leagues. They don't say that about those. So why are they doing that about something they've paid to carry? That's pointless. If you don't like something, don't watch it. Don't get me wrong. I've said this repeatedly, and I'll say it again to make sure it's clear. If you are a soccer fan, you don't have an obligation to watch because you're a soccer fan. Be a fan however you want to be a fan. Support however you want to support. If you like one team and that's what you want to watch, cool. But don't also tell me that I'm going to watch every game in the Premier League no matter who's playing because it's great, because it's not always great. There's Premier League games that are garbage, just like there's MLS games that are garbage, just like there's USL Championship games that are garbage. It's the sport. Sometimes you have a bad game. It's any sport. Sometimes you have a bad baseball game. You have a bad football game. You have a bad basketball game. That's fine. And if you think there's more bad games in a certain league, that's fine. It's on the league to get you to watch. It's on the people who pay to carry the games to get you to watch. That's the point. That's what's important here. there's no obligation just because you like soccer that you have to watch every game that's on TV. We get to pick and choose now. That's what's great. In the past, you might have one game on every couple of weeks, and that was it. And if you wanted to watch soccer, that was what you had to do. Now, I mean, in the afternoons right now, I can pick between Serie A, between La Liga, between the Premier League. If I want to get really creative, I can find other leagues. I get to choose, and I pick what I like. That's what's cool about it now, and you have to pick what you like. But if you are competing for eyeballs, and if you are a broadcaster who is paying to get people to watch your product, you should probably treat it with a little more respect, because otherwise you're wasting your investment.
Yeah. What's going on Twitch? We are officially caught up on Twitter, I believe.
We're going to see this game out because we got about 90 seconds left. Everybody thought that was going to be a penalty for Toronto. And I'm not hearing the commentary, but ultimately I think that last replay sealed it because of the deflection up into the arm. That would have been a very, very harsh penalty. I think Marufo got it right. I think VAR got it right. Feels like there's a goal in this game. Might be right here with Toronto. Nope, pulled it wide. It's opened up as the game went on. I mean, it was, I'm not studying this match because I'm talking to you guys throughout it, but the first half was pretty meh. Second half, there's been more going on. Akinola might have been offside anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered.
And we got our first Josie Altidore sighting of the tournament.
Yeah. Load management, it's going to be a thing for Josie Altidore. It's going to be something that you see more and more, and as this league, Bruce Arena is getting told to calm down and sit down and stop yelling.
Back away from the center ball, sir.
No, I don't think it's anything to do with the ball. I think it's the guy in yellow that he's yelling at. Any guy in yellow he can find to yell at. Yeah. Bruce's post-game comments should be fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe you can. Maybe we'll sit there and he'll ask it again, as if anybody knows what's going on.
He might be a little more colorful this time around.
But silly me! I've got to come up with our numbers for all of the activity that's going on tonight, don't I?
Yes, you do that while I run down what the
broadcast day.
Yes, Fotis Bazakos doesn't make many people happy. That's very true, Kefsey. I agree with you. All right, here's the rest of the day. So we will be on air at 7 o'clock on 92.9 The Game, on radio.com. I believe all of the pregame will be covered on SiriusXM FC as well. The game will be broadcast there. Game will kick off just after 8. We'll have an hour of pregame. We'll have an hour of postgame, the full-time report, 92.9 The Game, radio.com. That'll be posted to the Off the Woodwork podcast folder as well afterwards. I think we finally at least got that part worked out. We're working on the rest of the content, making its way there. Challenging times. We're working through it. We're trying to get there with it. So all of that is today. Also at 7 on Atlanta United social media channels, we will have the AT&T countdown to kickoff. That will be giving you the lineup. That will include an interview from the bubble and everything else getting ready for Orlando, getting ready for Columbus and Atlanta. So 7 o'clock tonight, pregame, 8 o'clock kick, full-time report for an hour afterwards, starting at roughly 10 o'clock. It's a stressful game for Atlanta United. It's a stressful day. They've got to win and hope everything else falls their way. I think it can if they get the win, but the win is the hardest part of all of those scenarios.
All right. Composite from our friends at Odds Portal. Atlanta United to win is a plus 189. Columbus to win is a plus 129. Your draw is at plus 259. The range really isn't all that much. The highest for Atlanta United is a plus 200. It goes into the 170s for some. About 129 to 139 basically is your range for Columbus as well. Atlanta highest at 200, but your average is at plus 189. Later this evening for the other match on the board, Montreal and DC, slated for 10:30. Montreal in your composite from Odds Portal plus 175 to win. DC to win plus 141. And your draw option is at plus 252.
So there was a question on Twitter about, did that result change anything for Atlanta? It doesn't. Toronto and New England are on 5. They're first and second. Third place in that group will come down to the match tonight. If DC wins, they will be on 5, and the third place team from that group will go through because you'll have 3 teams on 5. If Montreal wins, they'll be on 3 points. They have a -2 goal differential right now. Could get interesting. If it's a draw, DC would be on 3 points, and their goal differential would be 0. Atlanta's got a -2. If they win 1-0, like my prediction was, then they'd be on -1. So you're looking at those things. Like, for example, if Montreal wins 1-0, they would be on 3 points. They would be the third place team. They would be on -1 goal differential. If Atlanta wins 1-0, they would be on -1 goal differential. This is where you go back to Bartimus Prime's point about goals scored, because then Montreal would have more goals scored. They would have the tiebreak in that situation. So it can come up. I think there's other groups where Atlanta's in a better position to get through as the third place team. For example, Group A, if they win, they would go ahead of New York City in that table because they would be on -1. New York City's on -2. There's other groups where things could fall their way. It's going to be interesting. All you can do is win. That's the number one thing. If you get a lead, and if you feel like you can not risk losing that lead and you can add goals to it, by all means go for it. But you've got to secure the 3 points first, no matter what. If there's blood in the water, you go and finish it off and you score as many goals as you can. You got to get the lead and secure it first. That's the number one job tonight.
Yeah, and looking forward to the broadcast plans for the two of you and all across the board on 92.9. So it's going to be it's going to be a pins and needles evening. That's definite, and we'll see how it all falls out.
Lots of stuff. The rest of the day. Tomorrow, and this is important, we won't have morning shows the rest of the week. I'm filling in for Randy McMichael on 92.9 from 10 to 2 with Andy Bunker. So I'll be on the radio from 10 to 2. We will be doing evening shows from 6 to 8 on Wednesday and Thursday. So Overreaction Wednesday will be from 6 to 8. You can watch and listen in all the normal spots. Friday, we might throw a power hour in or something, depending on what happens on Friday. But Friday night, we are doing the watch-along of the Atlanta United 2 match. That'll be on Twitch only, twitch.tv/soccer down here. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss anything with Twitch stuff, follow us at Soccer Down here on Twitch and get those notifications. The watch-along will be Twitch only Friday night, and we will figure out the Twitch audio problems. It seems like Twitch is having its own audio problems. We've got some echo from John. We're trying to manage all that. Oh, boy, I need an engineer and a producer and
calling Miller Pope,
an intern, and who knows what else. We'll get there eventually, one day. But we got a game tonight, so it's on ESPN2. It's on 2-Day NA. You've got it in English on ESPN2 if you need it. You've got the radio call on radio.com and 92.9 The Game and SiriusXM FC. So looking forward to it. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 for Overreaction Wednesday to break everything down. I'll be on the radio before that from 10 to 2. Hope you can join us for that as well. I think that's everything. I probably missed about 5 things, but we'll catch up later on Twitter. You can follow us and make sure you get it all there. Yeah. Mucha plata, y'all.
And yes, Shiva, we're going to make you wait till 6 on Wednesday to overreact. Mucha plata, y'all.